What's up, Flannelverse? Time for Monday Night Football. We've got the Commanders at the Chiefs. Possibly a fun game. We don't even have a kicker on the Commanders who we can play in on DraftKings. We do have Matthew Wright is kicking for the Commanders. As of last I looked, has not been added to the player pool, so we cannot play a kicker from the Commanders, and probably too late to add one at this point. So that's an interesting little wrinkle to this showdown slate. I'll be doing it the usual, going position by position, starting with quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, tight ends, defenses, and kickers. I'll make some lineups using Run the Sims, take any questions that you guys have. Of course, I'll be looking at defensive matchups, usage trends, coach speak, all of that, breaking things down for this game. I think kind of a fun one as far as Chiefs slates goes. One of the more fun Chiefs slates for me. Hopefully you guys also find it fun. By the way, while you're coming in, please like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And of course, if you're not already signed up at Run the Sims, you can use promo code Neil to get 10% off your first payment on any of their products. Highly recommend it. You'll see how it works as I make this tonight. Any other notes? I think that's it. Oh, you can get a Flannelverse hat. I've been meaning to mention it on these shows. You can get a Flannelverse hat. You just need to use the Flannelverse avatar where applicable. Win $1,000 or more in DFS or draft games. Give a social media shout out to myself or Mathology, and then send me your mailing address. I'll send you a hat. It's that simple. Let's get into this slate breakdown. I'm actually going to run the Sims here in a minute, but I want to first take a look at what the ownerships look like. So Marcus Mariota projected for 53% flex ownership, 6% captain ownership. Patrick Mahomes projected for 60% flex ownership, 31% captain ownership. So lots of ownership going to Mahomes and a bit to Mariota as well. I'm going to set up the Sims here using the top heavy payout structure, the largest field contest, because that's typically what I play, the highest number of Sims. And I'm going to set the shady portfolio diversifier for 226 lineups, because that is the number that I'm playing tonight across all contests on DraftKings. Obviously, if you are playing a different number of lineups, you set it for the number that you're playing. And I'm going to get these Sims running while I talk about quarterbacks. So Mahomes, I mean, even at 90+% ownership, I was getting to right with the field about 90% of my lineups earlier. I anticipate that is going to hold. I might make some changes that lead to me getting less Mahomes, because I think that there are some interesting angles to play on the slate, and we'll talk about those as we go. But I'm going to have a lot of Patrick Mahomes. He's one of the surest things, maybe the surest thing on this slate. Where can you where is the avatar? You can find it in the Flannelverse Discord. Free to join. Link is in the description of this video. That's the only place that I have it posted right now. I probably posted it on X at some point. I could do that again. But the easiest way to find it is if you go to the Flannelverse Discord, which again is free. There is an FV avatar channel where it should be pinned to the top of the page if you want to find the avatar, Flannelverse avatar. Mahomes looks great. I'm going to have a lot of him. I don't know that I'm going to have as much as I'm getting to currently. Again, using the ownership numbers at Run the Sims, which is 31% in the captain spot. I was getting to nearly 40% earlier in 90% of my lineups. I think my goal for Mahomes would be to have him in about 80% of my lineups, maybe 20, 25% at captain. I don't think that I'm going to go as nuts with the Mahomes as I'm getting to currently, but he's just an objectively great play. Chiefs lead the league in terms of pass rate over expectation. Let me see. Can I pull that up here? Yeah. I'm going to go to the weekly pass rate over expectation. I believe that I'm correct about that, but I want to double check. Yeah, Chiefs lead the league in terms of pass rate over expectation. The downside, of course, is that he probably might not continue throwing today, as they are 10-point favorites. Could lose some of that work if they do take a big lead. Mahomes also has been running a fair amount. Again, I wouldn't expect Mahomes to run as much in this game as he has so far. He has spike weeks here and there. He's not like an elite running quarterback. He'll run when he needs to. That's kind of always been his thing. Is like Mahomes willing to run when he needs to win games. Now he's in a game where they're 10-point favorites. They have Rashee Rice back. I think it's less likely that we see Mahomes really try to run a ton in this game, but it is something he's capable of doing when he needs to. So as far as stacking goes, I don't think you need to stack Mahomes, because again, first he runs a little bit, but on top of that, he does spread the ball around quite a bit. So I don't think that it is really necessary to stack Mahomes, but typically I would prefer to have Mahomes stacked up, and especially if I have my captain, I would want to have at least one pass catcher with Mahomes in the flex where I have him there. Marcus Mariota has played in 3 games, has started 2 of them. In the 2 games he started, he has 60 rushing yards, and then in the 3rd game where he only played, I don't know, about half the game, another 34 rushing yards. So, running quite a bit so far, 94 rushing yards in like 2.5 games or so. Always been capable, always been a willing runner, and he's coming in at lower ownership. Again, the downside is they're only projected to score like 19 points. What is the total here? Yeah, 19 is the total for Washington. So not expected to score a ton of points. They also don't throw much with Mariota in the 3 games that he has been the starter. They rank 26th in terms of pass rate over expectation. So they're not trying to throw as much when they have Marcus Mariota out there. I think it looks okay. Again, he's quarterbacks on a showdown slate always going to look pretty good. I'd like to have him in 50% of my lineup, something like that overall. Earlier when I ran the Sims, I was actually getting to a lot more of Marcus Mariota in the captain spot, which I think kind of makes sense. Like if he's having a good game, if he is running a little bit, he's a lot cheaper than Mahomes. I think it makes sense to be above weight in the captain spot on Mariota, but I think I'll probably end up being a little bit underweight overall as there are other angles that I like to attack in this game. Uh, glad to see many of you have your flannelverse hats, have them on. Hopefully one of us wearing a flannelverse hat can take down a showdown slate tonight. Would love to see it. Glad it got to you in Canada, despite Canada, despite the international shipping being, it actually wasn't as bad for Canada. There was only one label, but it's just a different size. I had to like rearrange it. I am, for the record, for those of you who are playing for potentially getting a hat, I will ship internationally, even with the places where it is a pain in the ass and need to put 3 labels on. It's still willing to ship internationally. All right, we're getting close to this sim being run. I'm going to start talking about the running backs. We'll start with the away team. We'll start with the Commanders. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. I'm going to the wrong. Okay. Actually, in terms, I should as far as quarterbacks go, schedule adjusted fantasy points over the past 5 games. This has been the second best matchup for quarterbacks against Washington. So great matchup for Mahomes. Not so great for Mariota. 5th worst matchup for running backs against Kansas City. Maybe notable that it's actually been a slight positive matchup for running, for quarterback rushing against the Chiefs, but it's just 1.5 points over expectation there. So I don't really know that we want to read too much into that, but at least a little bit of a nugget for a rushing quarterback like Mariota. Maybe he's able to run a little bit more on the Chiefs. Okay, the Sims have been run, so I want to see what my exposure is at right now. I also before I got on, I got on 5 minutes after inactives were supposed to be out. As of my last search, I was not able to find Chiefs inactives. I'm not sure if any of you have been able to find the Chiefs inactives, but I'm going to look that up one more time here, just because I want to make sure there's not anything impactful there. I'm not really anticipating. Let's see. Here it is. I found it. Okay. Jalen Royals inactive. Jared Wiley inactive on National Tight Ends Week. What are we doing here? Come on. Elijah Mitchell. Nobody that is impactful that I was thinking about playing anyway. So we can move on. Love to see it, Lou. Changing avatar from Swolecast. That is a big deal. That is a big deal, Lou Dog. Glad to see it. Love to see it. Trying to spread the word. All right. Trey Smith is a big, but the playable guys are not for this one. Okay. So in my last run of the Sims, Mahomes, again, projecting for or using 60% flex ownership, 31% captain ownership. I got to 53% in the flex, 36% captain. So above the field in captain, a little bit underweight at flex. This is slightly less than I was getting earlier. That looks good. And then Mariota was actually just slightly under the field in the flex and then way over the field at captain, projected for 6% captain ownership. I got to 20% captain ownership in my latest run of the Sims. So the Sims, they're loving Mariota at captain at that 6% projected ownership number. Running backs. Again, we're going to start with the Commander side using projections of 26% flex ownership, 3% captain ownership to Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. I got to 38% flex, 6% captain ownership. He's 7,200. And, I look at Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt's role and the price tag, and I don't love the play, especially in this matchup with the Chiefs, which, again, not an elite matchup. They have been, sort of susceptible throughout the year on the ground, But you look at how they've done over the past 5 games. It is, I want to say it's the 14th worst or something like that matchup for running backs over the past 5 weeks. So right in the middle, just a very neutral matchup for running backs. But he has shown the ability to break off some big runs. So let's take a look at Ja'Cory Crosby Merritt. I'm going to do it by let's look at the past 3 weeks for Ja'Cory Crosby Merritt. So we'll go 7, 6, 5. And then I also want to look at just last week. And this is just going to show us the usage, not his actual um, how he's actually done with the usage. But over the past 3 weeks, Bill, aka Ja'Cory Crosby Merritt, 44 carries. So pretty good workload. 44 carries in like that's just under 15 carries per game over the past 3 weeks. 4 targets, so just over 1 target per game. 34.6% route participation. Not like elite usage, but pretty good, like standard, low end RB1 usage for Ja'Cory Crosby Merritt. And he has shown the ability to break off some big runs. So although I don't love it at this price tag and not a super easy matchup, he is not getting a ton of ownership, just projected for 29% ownership as the clear RB1 on the Commanders, who are again 26th in terms of pass rate over expectation. This is a team that wants to run the ball. I think he will be running quite a bit. So Ja'Cory Crosby Merritt looks good as a contrarian play here. I anticipate that I will end up with a lot. Again, you'd think that they want to run the ball. They want to keep the Chiefs off the field. So I would think they go into the game planning to run a lot. Once they get, if they do get behind, maybe they have to abandon it at some point. But for a guy not getting a ton of ownership, I think Ja'Cory Crosby Merritt looks pretty good. Beyond Ja'Cory Crosby Merritt, Jeremy McNichols, 3,400, projected for 14% ownership. With this number, I only got to 1% Jeremy McNichols. I do think that's something that I will want to increase a bit. Again, you just look at his role. Let's go over the past 3 weeks. Ja'Cory Crosby Merritt, Jeremy McNichols, just 5 carries, so doesn't get a ton of work in the running game, but does have 9 targets over the past 3 games. So 3 targets per game, 31.8% route participation. And again, they are 10-point dogs in this game. You think it's a little bit more likely that they get behind. They need to throw the ball to catch up. They're going to use Jeremy McNichols in that, the play from behind offense where they're trying to catch up. So I think 3,400, a fair price tag on Jeremy McNichols. I don't think that I want to get to 14% if that is the ownership number. I kind of want to double check that against RotoGrinders ownership number. Yeah, so they have him at 6%. So I think he's a really strong play at 6%. Not an especially strong play. Like I wouldn't want to be above 14%. So maybe I shoot for 8, 10%. Jeremy McNichols. I think that he has the ability to, in the right game script, get a little bit more work. Again, he's already been targeted 3 times per game the past few games. If he suddenly, like, if he just catches 5 balls, that's 5 fantasy points. That goes a long way toward 3,400. And then you throw on whatever yardage scores a touchdown. There's some upside in Jeremy McNichols. Chris Rodriguez, I don't think we have any reason to believe he's going to take on any more of a workload over the past 3 weeks. 8 carries, so under 3 carries per game, 0 targets, 10% route participation. It's possible that they start working him in more. He could just get a random touchdown if Ja'Cory Crosby Merritt gets it down to the 1 yard line. He's exhausted. They bring in Chris Rodriguez. And they did say over the course of the over the summer that he was going to be their goal line back. That has not been the case at all. So at this point, we can abandon any kind of priors coach speak from the summer. But I think they think he's capable as a goal line back. So I think if there are a reason for him to get out there again, Ja'Cory Crosby Merritt gets worn down or something, has the ability to score a touchdown, and then probably gets any kind of if the game gets out of hand, I would guess Chris Rodriguez gets into the game late. So I don't think he has a ton of standalone value outside of, again, could just score a random touchdown. Certainly possible, but I think he has good, like, strong contingent upside in case of blowout, in case of an injury to Ja'Cory Crosby Merritt. I would think Chris Rodriguez then would come in as the top running back. So 3,600, 4% ownership. That's about where I'd want to be on Chris Rodriguez. I think 4% is kind of a fair number there. All right. 12% fading JCM. I'm going to read the Chiefs. So let me take a sip here. Because Bill ain't too good at pass blocking. Yeah, he's not a great pass blocker. All right. Catching up. Catching up on the Chiefs side, I've got a lot of interest in Chiefs running backs, and I will note that it looks way different based on the ownership numbers you use. I'm going to read off the Run the Sims ownership numbers, but then I'm going to take a look at Roto Grinders also, because those were significantly lower earlier. Maybe those have come up. I'm not sure, but as of right now, Run the Sims has Pacheco at 39% flex ownership, 6% captain ownership, Rashard Smith at 22-1, Kareem Hunt at 14-0. Looking at Roto Grinders updated ownership numbers, and I'm actually going to reset this, make sure that it's all as recent as possible. They have Pacheco at 20% flex ownership. So that's really appealing to me if he comes in at 20%. They have Rashard Smith at 12%. So that's actually come up slightly from where they had it early, but still just 12%. Kareem Hunt at 9.5%. So they're lower across the board on ownership numbers for the Chiefs running backs. My guess is it comes in somewhere between those numbers. And if it does come in somewhere between those numbers, if we get Pacheco at 25% flex ownership, like 30% total ownership on Pacheco, I would think is really strong. 45%, less excited about it. If we get Rashard Smith closer to 10-12%, I'd be excited about it. 23% seems like a lot. Kareem Hunt in single digits, I'm interested. 14% seems like reasonable number. This seems like the case frequently is I do my first analysis of the slate using Roto Grinders numbers because they're the first ones to come out with ownership projections. I fall in love with a play, and then I bring up Run the Sims, and they're like, oh, these numbers look like about what they should be. Like this seems like it's, if these are the actual ownership numbers, this seems kind of just about where they should be. I'm again losing the word that I'm looking for, but you know what I mean. It's like these efficient, like these look closer to efficient ownership numbers to me, just like at a glance. These seem like, okay, these seem reasonable, in which case I don't love it quite as much. But I think that the angle that I'm going to play is that these numbers are higher than anywhere I've seen elsewhere in the industry in terms of the ownership projections on the running backs. I suspect they're going to come in lower than Run the Sims has them at. So I'm going to lower the ownership numbers on the running backs on the Chiefs, because I think the easiest way to win money on this slate is if it goes the way that the Chiefs are running a lot and they come in lower owned than I'm expecting them to be. And this is a game where, again, they're 10.5 point favorites. And I think that there are fun ways to play this. Now, first of all, Isaiah Pacheco, 7,000 is a nice price tag for a running back who seems to be kind of taking over the backfield for the Chiefs. I'm going to pull up I have it right here, the last 3 games for the Chiefs. And it hasn't even really been to the extent that I think it could be for Pacheco if things go right. But over the past 3 games, 34 carries, he's played 64% of snaps, 8 targets on 41% route participation over those 3 games, which is an increase on where he had been. And we have a lot of positive coach speak on Pacheco. Let me actually pull up the coach speak here. Let's see. The most recent, maybe less bullish than some of the recent stuff, but let me just go back a little bit on Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, this is just on the 8th. Andy Reid said, I thought Isaiah Pacheco did a good job running and catching and blocking on Monday night. He got a little bit more playing time, which I think is good, kind of get him into the swing of things, and that helped. At the same time, Kareem had a good day today. He said a few different times that, like, yeah, it's good that we're getting Isaiah Pacheco a little bit more playing time, getting him into the swing of things. We'd like to get him going. Like, has been kind of a consistent coach speak from Andy Reid that they'd like to get him more involved. And I think we've kind of seen that they are trying to they want Isaiah Pacheco to be the lead back. And it's been a while since he's been that, but he's, starting to show signs that maybe he is capable of being that lead back. I've gotten the impression that is where they would like to go, is to get Pacheco to be the lead back again. However, some of the more recent stuff, I'll read off some quotes from Andy Reid on the 20th. He said, Kareem Hunt has got a real knack for short yardage. He's got great vision. He's always been good at short yardage. Having him in the backfield there is a great thing. Offensive coordinator Matt Nagy has done a nice job of bringing Brashard Smith along. He's catching the ball well. I like where he's at now. He's in a good frame of mind and he's picking things up. So we just keep coming with him. And then he said, I've always believed you need 3 running backs. We've normally used all 3 when we've had them. I've done that for a lot of years now. They're all contributing in their own way. I think it's important for Isaiah Pacheco to get in there and get going. I think he's the best when he does that. Kareem Hunt understands that, and he gets to pick and kind of choose where he goes in, or we're able to pick and choose where he goes in. And then Brashard Smith gives you a whole different deal because he played wide receiver in college. His ability to catch the ball on screens is good, and he's got the protections down now, so he can stand back there and still protect. He's not quite as strong as the other guys. He's going to need an offseason to get even stronger than what he is in order to tote the ball on every play. He'll work on that. He's a diligent kid. And then on the 23rd, Kareem Hunt has a bone bruise in his knee. He's going to be okay. Brashard Smith has done a nice job of picking it up at that position. You've got to know the pass game, the run game, and then the protections that you have to take care of. The protections get a little crazy with all the different looks the defenses throw at you, and then with as many types of protections that we have in our offense. And he's hung right in there and done a good job. We've been able to give him a little bit more each week in different roles. We're moving him all over the place. I wouldn't see that part changing. We're going to keep utilizing his talents, hard worker, all that. The intangible stuff's great. And then he reiterated, I think Kareem Hunt has a special feel for short yardage. Isaiah Pacheco too, but Kareem has always had a knack for that, and he's a load, and he's a big kid, strong. So it sounds like they're going to continue to use all 3 running backs is sort of my takeaway. They do, kind of reference, hey, we would like to get the rookie more involved. We're using him a little bit more in different ways each week, but it doesn't sound like they trust him as an every down back this year. It's just not strong enough. So they're going to need the offseason to get him up to speed. Maybe next year we're going to see the breakout for Brashard Smith as the lead back. But I think it's Pacheco is the lead back at this point. Kareem Hunt, I don't know if they're just like doing it, for him, like as a favor, giving him the goal line stuff, because I think Pacheco has shown that he's also capable of that goal line stuff. But it seems like they're kind of like, they want Isaiah Pacheco to be the lead back, and both of them are capable of doing short yardage stuff. So, hey, we'll just give it to Kareem Hunt. It's sort of my impression of what the Chiefs are doing. Could be totally wrong. And then Brashard Smith, they just trust him as a pass catching back pretty clearly. Doesn't seem like they trust him as a true running back. I will note in the last game, so Adam and I looked at this earlier, in week 7, the usage for Brashard Smith, really strong. 14 carries in that game and 5 targets on 22.5% route participation. We looked it up, and 13 of those 14 carries came in the second half. So just 1 carry in the first half. That was a game the Chiefs won 31-0. So I think in most game situations, we're not going to see Brashard Smith with more than a couple carries. I don't think that has changed, at least like based on what we've seen, based on the coach speak. I don't think we have any reason to believe he's taken on more of a base role as a running back on the Chiefs. However, in that game, again, they won 31-0, and he got all that work in the second half. He had 4 targets in the first half. So I think in some game scripts, like, he could just be more and more involved as a pass catcher. And that kind of sounds like that's what Andy Reid is saying. Like, yeah, we're just giving him more looks, using him a lot of different ways. So I'm pretty interested in Brashard Smith as well. So starting with, again, Pacheco, I think looks great depending on the ownership. If he comes in at 45% ownership, I'm not like super jazzed to be above the field on that. That sounds about right. If he does come in at 20% ownership as he's being projected over here, and then what is he at captain? Actually, look at that too. Where is he? Oh, he's up at 10%. Okay, so they just have him at 10% captain, 20% flex, so 30% total ownership. I would like him quite a bit as a flex play in that scenario, and then I know obviously 6% captain ownership. I would like him there. Regardless, I think I probably want 40 to 50% Isaiah Pacheco. And that's just, I'm just going to make the bet on Pacheco is the lead back there. This is, again, a pretty nice spot for running backs against Washington. It is the 8th best matchup over the past 5 weeks for running backs in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. So he's getting more work. He's only $7,000. I'm going to be above weight to Pacheco if he comes in at 30% total ownership. If he comes in at 45%, that's probably about what I'm aiming for. I think I want 45, 50% Pacheco. Hope that the field comes in much lower than that. Just kind of hope for the best ownership wise. Behind Pacheco, I mean, Kareem Hunt 14% ownership seems about efficient to me. We don't have a ton of great salary value options here. He's only 3,000. It does seem like he is still, I think, the likeliest to get those inside the 5 carries over the past 3 games. They've had a total of 3 inside the 5 carries. 2 of them have gone to Kareem Hunt, one of them to Brashard Smith. But as Adam noted, the most recent game, it was actually Pacheco who got inside the 10 carries. I don't know if they're more likely to use Pacheco inside the 10, but then once they really get close short yard is what they keep saying, is what Kareem Hunt's bread and butter is. So I think he is a fine play at 3,000, just because they are not unlikely to get some pass interference in the red zone, in the end zone, and just have those 1 yard carries. And I do think Kareem Hunt is just the most likely to get those 1 yard carries. That's just what they've shown us historically. Is what Andy Reid keeps on saying. So I think he's fine at $3,000. Your hope, obviously, 1 touchdown, probably not enough. 1 yard, rushing touchdown, probably not enough to pay off 3,000. If he gets a couple of them, obviously you'd love it, and obviously he should add more yardage on top of that. So I think Hunt is a fine play at 14%. If he does come in closer to like 8%, I think I would want to be above that for sure. But then Brashard Smith, again, I would love him depending on the ownership. At this 23% projected ownership, I got to 15%. This does seem maybe a bit much, but other places have him projected for 12% ownership. That's a number I want to be on top of. Again, I think he has multiple outs. The first one being, again, he was targeted 4 times last week in the first half. So in a competitive game, it's within the range of outcomes that he could be targeted 8-9 times in a game if the game is competitive. And then if the game isn't competitive, if the Chiefs just dominate, I think it's Brashard Smith who's going to come in as the running back in the second half. He's going to start actually getting some work as a running back in a blowout situation. So in a blowout, he gets there. If they get behind, maybe he gets more work as the pass catching back. So I think that there are a lot of ways for Brashard Smith to start getting more involved. He could, again, like the usage has been all over the place, so he could just not see much work at all. But at 4,000, if he does come in at single digit or barely double digit ownership, I'm going to be double the field, triple the field. I want quite a bit of Brashard Smith, and I'm going to play this game. I'm going to have a lot of lineups that have multiple Chiefs running backs. It's just a clean way to play it, where the field's not going to have a ton of the Chiefs running backs. I think that it wouldn't be that surprising to see the Chiefs take a big lead and then just start running it quite a bit in the second half. So to me, it's a way that I'm going to be attacking this game, is just lots of Pacheco, lots of Smith, and lesser of Hunt. But I'll still have some just due to the price tag and the touchdown upside there. I think that's it as far as running backs go. I'll check in on chat and we'll move on to wide receivers. Yep, he was, but they liked that that was Andy Reid reference that he was a wide receiver in college. They trust him as a pass catcher, and that's how they've been using him. They've been letting him continue to see, like, they line him up at wide receiver pretty frequently. Hunt was hurt when Pacheco. I do think that is the case. And again, over the past 3 weeks, they've only had, I think they've only had 3, maybe 6. I don't know. It doesn't actually show the raw number of inside the 5 carries, but I know it's been 2/3 of them have gone to Hunt, 1/3 have gone to Brashard Smith. I think it's just 3 total inside the 5 carries. But I think Hunt is just like, he's clearly the trusted inside the 5 guy. I think they're fine using Pacheco there, but if Andy Reid has his choice, he's going to give that to Hunt. I think that's what we've seen historically. All right. Also, good call. Mahomes is obviously going to get somebody hurt today. We just have to, we can't guess who it's going to be. All right. Going to get rid of this bot. We're going to talk some wide receivers. Smith is giving me McKinnon vibes. That was kind of the role that everybody was hoping for in this offseason. Throughout the offseason, we talked about what if Brashard Smith is the new Jerick McKinnon for the Chiefs, which would mean he's going to be inconsistent, but he's going to have some spike weeks. All right, wide receivers. Starting with the Commanders, we have Deebo Samuel back. We have Terry McLaurin back. Everything kind of a mess on the Commanders. This is a tough situation to break down, in my opinion. Similar to like the the Steelers last night, where it's just like, I don't know how they're going to use all of these receivers at this point, but we're going to do our best once again. So again, looking at the route share report for the Commanders. If you haven't read this chart before, it's just players over here. You can see week 1, 2, 3, 4, as the season progresses, how has their route share changed. I really like this chart because you can see, like, okay, where are players out? So we can see weeks 1 and 2, we had fully healthy Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin. Week 3 looks like they both got hurt. Maybe Deebo only 39% route participation, Terry McLaurin 52%, and then McLaurin has been out. Deebo has been in until week 7. He was out. So the only games we have with both Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin healthy were weeks 1 and 2, and it was Deebo Samuel running like 82% of the routes, Terry McLaurin running 87% or so in those games. And then beyond them at receiver, we didn't really have a very clear wide receiver 3. In week 1, Noah Brown ran the majority. He's been out since week 2. In week 2, we saw Jalen Lane kind of see an uptick there. And it's, with Jalen Lane being a rookie, you might expect him to take on more work as the season goes on. Luke McCaffrey as a sophomore, maybe. It's kind of a mess trying to guess who's going to run the most routes. Worth noting, though, Robbie Chosen has been cut. He was cut from the practice squad. So this 55% route participation goes somewhere. But obviously, most of it is just going to go to Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin. They're going to be the lead receivers here. And then it's some mix of Chris Moore, Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, and we have to kind of try to figure out who is going to be the most involved. And are Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin going to be limited at all? I mean, Deebo Samuel comes in with a heel injury. Is he going to be limited at all? Who would benefit if he's out? It is kind of a mess. As of right now, Deebo Samuel at 9,000 projected for 28% flex ownership, 5% captain ownership. With those numbers, I got to 47% in the flex, 15% at captain. So well over the field on Deebo Samuel. Terry McLaurin, 8,400 projected for 22 and 3. I got to 18 and 1. So under the field on McLaurin. And then the other three, McCaffrey, 3,800 with 6% total projected ownership. I got to 8.4% and 0.4%. Lane, 4,200 projected for 4%. I got to 0.4%. Moore, 2,600 projected for 1%. I got to 3.5%. So above the field on Moore, but didn't get to a ton of any of the tertiary receivers. Looking at the matchup, it is not a great matchup for wide receivers. Over the past 5 weeks, the Chiefs defense has allowed the third fewest schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to wide receivers. I think I'd rather even it out a little bit between Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin. Actually, let me read off my article here, because I had some stats here. Appreciate you, Brandon. The bots, you can get rid of them, and I appreciate that, but they still, for some reason, don't go away in StreamYard. So if I say that I'm getting rid of bots after you've already done so, that's why. It's because they're still showing up in StreamYard, but I appreciate you taking care of them on YouTube. What was I looking up here? Oh yeah, my article. 1 second. Deebo Samuel in 6 total games, 43 targets on 80.4% route participation. Also has 8 carries in those 6 games. Kind of nice that he has had, in most of those games, 0 or 1 carries, but in 2 of those games, he actually got 3 carries. So it seems like there are certain games where they're willing to get Deebo Samuel more involved as a running back. Also, they're willing to use him sometimes, but generally, though, just 8 carries on the season in 6 games, but 43 targets. Pretty strong workload for Deebo Samuel. Terry McLaurin, again, he was injured in week 3, so he's only played 2 full games. But in the 2 full games that Terry McLaurin played, 13 targets on 87.6% route participation. He's a little bit of a tough price tag. Given, again, just 13 carries, which is not nothing, but 6.5 targets, 6.5 targets per game in his 2 full games. They seem to really lean on Deebo Samuel more than Terry McLaurin. And McLaurin showed a connection with Jaden Daniels last year, but we haven't really seen that much of a connection with Marcus Mariota so far. They only played half a game together so far this year. I guess they have played together in the past, so theoretically they should have some connection there, but Terry McLaurin, we just haven't really seen it from him yet this year. But again, if he's only getting 25% ownership, I do think that's a number that you can just say, hey, this is Terry McLaurin. He's a really good wide receiver, not getting a ton of ownership. The fact that he hasn't shown it in a really small sample size this year, maybe we should be looking at the larger sample size instead and just assume that at some point he is going to break out. I think that that's a reasonable way to play it if you want to lean in on Terry McLaurin. I don't think he's going to be my biggest stand here. I think I do want to have at least like 20%. Not someone that I'm trying to get well over the field on, just because I think the Chiefs receivers look better than Terry McLaurin. But if that's the stand that you want to take, I do think that it's reasonable to just say, hey, this is way too much Debo and too little Terry McLaurin. I think I'd like to even it out a little bit more than it is right now, because again, it's a pretty small sample size of the two of them together. I'm not convinced that Debo Samuel is like the clear alpha here, and Terry McLaurin taking a back seat. I think we could see that even out over time. But as of right now, not getting to a ton of Terry. And then Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, Chris Moore. Again, I don't have a strong opinion on these three. I think Chris Moore is my favorite because he is the cheapest. He's only 2,600. He has been leading in terms of routes of this group, 80% route participation. Last game, 74. The game before that, I think that he's the likeliest to stay out there and still run like north of 50% of routes with Debo and McLaurin back. But Luke McCaffrey has some big play upside. Jalen Lane has big play upside. I think it ultimately is going to come down to who makes the big play. And I think Chris Moore, I think, is like the likeliest to pay off his price tag without one play that scores 9 fantasy points, I guess. So he's the cheapest and getting the least ownership. So all things considered, at this ownership number, at this price tag, he is my favorite of the trio. But it's really just going to come down to who makes the big play. If any of them makes a big play, they're probably the one that you want. So my preference would be Chris Moore. If I'm ranking them, it's probably Moore number one, followed by McCaffrey, followed by Lane. But I don't feel that strongly about it. If you feel really strongly about one of these tertiary receivers, play the guy that you like, play the guy that fits into your lineup the best. But it's a mess here. I don't think we can say with any kind of confidence who is the best of the trio. And they're not also my favorite like way to play the spend downs. I prefer the running back positions in general to the receivers. So I think these are viable guys, and I think actually I say that, and I think I probably want to be certainly above weight on Moore, and I want to have maybe 5% of each or so, 5 to 10%. Like I think that they're strong enough plays, but they're just not like huge priorities for me. Just given that it's kind of a muddy situation and got some other decent value on the slate. So I probably come in, 5-10% of each of them, which is, with or above the field. So I say they're not priorities. And at the same time, I do think they're all like reasonable plays here. On the Chiefs side, Rashee Rice is back. Last game, he ran 42.5% of the routes and saw 9 targets. Again, the Andy Reid quotes, kind of funny. It's like they're not really saying like, hey, these guys are going to, Rashee Rice is like clearly, obviously, we're going to get him way more involved going forward. It is here. I'll read off the quotes from Andy Reid and Matt Nagy. Where is this now? On the 17th. Yeah, on the 17th, head coach Andy Reid said, Rashee Rice looks sharp. What we asked him to do, he did well. You can tell he's in good shape. Now it's just a matter of getting in the game and getting reps. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so that was before the game. After the game, he said in the post-game presser, we'll gradually build Rashee up. We'll get his reps up here a little bit as we go. You got to be careful with that when somebody's been out for a while. He wasn't out with an injury, so I don't know. Seemed like it was low. He also, 42.5% route participation. That was in a game that they didn't play the starters in the fourth quarter at all. So probably was going to get more if the game was closer. On the 23rd, Andy Reid said, we set out to get Rashee Rice around 40% of snaps last game. I think you keep increasing it from there. He came out feeling good. Now he gets another week of practice under his belt. I don't know what that means. When he says, I think you keep increasing it from there, that sounds to me like, hey, I want to gradually increase it, but I don't know that I totally buy that. Like, why not just get him out there? If he looks good, he looks capable of playing more. So I think he's, as long as the game is close, I think we're going to see a lot of Rashee Rice. But then again, on the 24th, offensive coordinator Matt Nagy said, on what Rashee Rice's playing time will be this week, he said, I feel like it will be very similar, if not more. We'll give him as much as he can and wants. It's a lot to come back in and play 60 snaps right away. We'll have a feel for how the game goes, and as much as we can get him in and keep him in, we'll do that. So they're not saying like, yeah, he's ready to go. We're gonna, give him all the playing time now. But I guess that just would make the most sense to me, that they start using Rashee Rice a lot more than they have been so far. But regardless, when he is there, they're throwing him the ball quite a bit. He was targeted again 9 times in that last game. He is pretty clearly, I think, Patrick Mahomes' favorite target. And I think Rashee Rice is just a fantastic play. I think he's fantastic at captain, fantastic in the flex. With that said, using 42% flex ownership, 25% captain, I came in well under the field on both. I came in at 36% flex, 8% captain. I think I'm going to lower those projected ownership numbers. Roto-Grinders has it at 40% flex and 18% captain. So a little bit lower in both for Rashee Rice, in which case I would get a bit more. I think I can just even out from where I'm getting with Mahomes and Mariota, just pass some of that to the pass catchers. So I think that's how I'm going to do it. And then Rashee Rice, 8,600 projected for 26% flex ownership, 7% captain ownership. With Worthy, I got to 21% in the flex, 2% of captain. I think I'd like more of Worthy at captain. I think I'm going to lower his ownership projections at captain because I think it's lower elsewhere. And regardless, I mean, not that much lower. Actually, it's right at 7% at Roto-Grinders projected ownership. So very similar on Worthy. Maybe I won't lower it that much then, I guess. But at 8,600, I just think he has the big play upside that we haven't really seen with him with Rashee Rice out there. Like, Rashee Rice has been the priority for Patrick Mahomes, but clearly Worthy still has that big play upside. So I think he can pay off as captain at a not super expensive price tag. At 130 yards and 2 touchdowns wouldn't shock anybody. So I think I like him better at captain. I'm okay being underweight to Worthy at flex. If I get to 30% total Worthy, but it's 15% at captain, 15% at flex, I think that would be totally fine with me. And then beyond those two, we have Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyquan Thornton. We don't have to worry about Jalen Royals. He is out. And Marquise Brown. So we have those 3 receivers behind Rice and Worthy. And again, kind of a mess in the way they use those 3 last week with Rashee Rice back. Maybe let's pull up week 7. Yeah, going to do that. Because this is the only game we have so far this year. And actually the only game that we have in total with all of Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Hollywood Brown active. This is the first time all 3 have played together. So last week, with those 3 active, we saw, again, Worthy, 4 targets, 67.5% route participation. Marquise Brown, 45% route participation. Did see 4 targets. I think he had 2 touchdowns, if I'm remembering correctly. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe that was a couple of games ago. But I think Marquise Brown had a couple touchdowns. 1 end zone touchdown, and then maybe brought 1 in also. Regardless, 45% route participation, pretty low for Marquise Brown in that game. 4 targets. Juju Smith-Schuster, 35% route participation, 3 targets. Tyquan Thornton, 22.5% and 2 targets. So none of them super involved. All 3 of them under 50% route participation. None of them got more than 4 targets. It's tough. Marquise Brown is, the one who is the most likely to see the most targets of that trio. He's also the most expensive at 5,400, and he's getting 13% ownership. Using these ownership numbers, I got to 7%. That feels fine to me. I don't think I need more than that. Juju Smith-Schuster, 2,400, nice price tag. Again, 35% route participation, 15% projected flex ownership. I got to 3.5%. I might want to even that out a bit, get just slightly more of Juju Smith-Schuster. And then Tyquan Thornton, 2,800 projected for 1% flex ownership. I got to 24%. Again, I think I'd be okay evening that out just a little bit, get down to, 18% Thornton, spread the rest to Judas Smith-Schuster and Marquise Brown. I would feel more comfortable with that. But Thornton, I mean, this just goes to show you, we talked about this a little bit earlier. On these Chiefs showdown slates, like, yeah, you see the guy who's running the most routes and gets the one more target, and you're like, all right, that guy has the best role on the Chiefs. And then it just comes down to who scores a touchdown, and the Chiefs just are unpredictable in who they decide to give the end zone target. Who on a given day, like, is the hot hand, starts getting more targets. I don't think it's that easy to predict these showdown slates for the Chiefs. So a lot of the time, the best thing to do is just fade the ownership, play the contrarian guys. And in that case, that's why you see Tyquan Thornton at 1% ownership. I'm getting to 24%. Again, I think I'm going to even it out a little bit because other places have Tyquan Thornton getting a little bit more ownership. But yeah, I think it makes sense to try to kind of inverse what the field is doing because it's so unpredictable with the Chiefs pass catchers. I think that's it on receivers. So I'll move on to tight ends. And of course, it is National Tight End Week. So this is the most important position. No, I don't actually think that. Again, I'm leaning on the running backs. I do think I want more than I'm getting to right now of the tight ends. We'll start again with the away team. So Zach Ertz, 5,600 projection for 28% flex ownership, 2% captain ownership. Using those numbers, I got to 14% in the flex, 1% at captain. I don't think Zach Ertz sees his role drastically reduced with the return of Terry McLaurin. Deebo Samuel's been active most of the year anyway, but on the season, pretty strong role for Zach Ertz. 33 targets in 7 games. So I mean, under 5 targets per game, but 72.7% route participation, has scored some touchdowns, 2 end zone targets, 5 inside the 20 targets. Fairly strong role for Zach Ertz. A little bit expensive for his workload. I mean, again, under 5 targets per game. He's honestly pretty similar to Hollywood Brown to me, where it's like you probably need a touchdown. He's probably not going to see more than 4 or 5 targets, but occasionally it'll just randomly spike and he'll be targeted 8 or 9 times and score a touchdown. And he's really gonna pay off the price tag. So I anticipate if he comes in at 30% ownership, yeah, I'm gonna want to be underweight on that number for Zach Ertz. This seems about right to me, getting to 15% with a 30% projected ownership. I don't think we're gonna need to give him any kind of a bump for the National Tight End Week. I think we can just kind of play it flat there. I'm going to be a little bit underweight on Ertz here. And then I'm not that excited about Ben Sinnott, John Bates. You really need a touchdown for either of them to pay off their price tag. They're just not involved enough. But Ben Sinnott is 200. So at that price tag, I guess, yeah, probably pays off if he does score a touchdown. So he's probably my preference of those two. And as you can see here, I got to 2% with a 1% projected ownership. So a bit overweight on Sinnott. And then on the Chiefs side, we have Travis Kelce, 8,000 projected for 17% flex ownership, 4% captain ownership. I got to 12.4% in the flex. That seems totally fine to me. Travis Kelce, his role, like he is not targeted as much with Rashee Rice out there. Again, in that most recent game, 3 targets for Kelce in Rashee Rice's return, 62.5% route participation. We saw it last year also when Rashee Rice was healthy. Rashee Rice was like the clear top pass catcher on the Chiefs, and everybody else kind of took a back seat. So with Rashee Rice out there, he's just too expensive at 8,000. So if the field's getting to 21%, I get to 12%. I'm pretty happy with that with Travis Kelce. It is, and also not quite as good of a matchup from a schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. Again, fairly neutral, so I don't want to overstate how important this is. But it's a pretty bad matchup for Zach Ertz, as you can see here. And then for Kelce, it is a slightly below neutral matchup, whereas for the receivers on the Chiefs, it is an elite matchup. And I think just Rashee Rice is the priority anyway. So all things considered, coming in underweight on Kelce makes sense. Noah Gray, 2,000 projected for 12% flex ownership. I got to just 1%. He's cheap enough, more likely than most backup tight ends to score a touchdown. So I think I want more than 1%, but probably not more than like 6 or 7%. Noah Gray would be kind of where I would like to be. All right. I'm fading Dusty Kelsey, I think. Yeah. Uh-oh. Sean says Kelsey in the slot is gonna kill the Commanders. Yeah, I mean, if you want to play Kelsey, he's so expensive, and they have Rashee Rice back, so he's not really a priority anymore. But yeah, if you want to play your ball knower take, Brandon says Kelsey needs 2 touchdowns to be optimal. I mean, he can just randomly start becoming like Patrick Mahomes' favorite target here and there, but I think that's happening less and less as he gets older. So yeah, I think being underweight to me is how I'm going to approach it. But Sean, you've been right before on some of your ball nowhere takes. So if you want to play some Kelsey, you go ahead and play some Kelsey. Defenses and kickers only in captain. Okay. Defenses and kickers. We don't have 2 kickers. We only have 1 kicker. Matthew Wright is the kicker for the Commanders. He is not in the player pool. So the only kicker we're getting to is Harrison Butker, and I'm getting to a lot of Harrison Butker, even with 37% flex ownership, 3% captain ownership projected, got to 49% Harrison Butker, and with 0.4% of that at captain. Pretty nuts. I'm kind of surprised at how much Butker I'm getting here. I might want less than this, but it actually, I mean, the Chiefs are favored. Usually you're going to want the kicker on the team that scores a lot of points. So I don't know that I really want much less than I'm getting to right now of Butker. Yeah, I can't get away from Butker. I mean, 50% seems like so much for a kicker, but I guess you can just take all the exposure you were going to get to Matt Gay when he was active and just give that to Butker, and you're looking good here. As far as the defenses go, getting to a ton of the Commanders again. This is what's going to happen in the Sims, and it makes sense. They're only projected for 3% flex ownership at 3,200, so they're going to look good for a $3,200 with given just the variance at the defense position, the variance in football at 3,200, 3% flex ownership. They are going to look really good. I don't know that I need them in 47% of my lineups. Again, they're facing the Chiefs. It's tough, but I'm sure I'll be pretty significantly overweight 3%, but I could get to 21%, be 7x the field, and I think I'd be comfortable with that and play some different angles rather than leaning fully into just having the Commanders defense being what I need on this slate. So I'll probably increase their ownership projection to get a little bit less. Chiefs 4,400, 21% flex ownership, 3% captain ownership. I got to 18%. That seems totally reasonable to me. I think that's it. I think I'm ready to make some lineups now. But I'm gonna catch up with chat. You don't need to know about the Commander's kicker because he's not in the player pool. Unless did FanDuel add him? Yeah, you did not have a kicker. I believe they signed him to the practice squad and then immediately elevated Matthew Wright, who seems to be a fine kicker, but it doesn't really matter because he is not in the player pool. On DraftKings, at least. So we might have to check if he's available on FanDuel. Let's see. It would be funny if he goes off. I do think I will say this. I think having a kicker that they did not have prior to today is a boost to the rest of the Commanders. I think they're just more likely to go for it on like a 4th and 2 from the 40-yard line. Like if they're really confident in their kicker, somebody they know well, they probably just kick it, or the 35-yard line. I don't know. Whereas now I think they might just be more likely to go for it. So maybe it's a boost to, I don't know, Ertz. Would Ertz be the beneficiary if they're going for it on 4th and 2? Probably, I would think. Maybe Mariota. So I do think that generally slightly better for the rest of the Commanders to not have a kicker there. Any advice for the 222 on FanDuel single entry would be appreciated. Let me take a look at FanDuel really quickly. I do think that Butker is going to have inflated ownership because he's the only kicker on the slate. Like I think a lot of people want to play kickers, and a lot of people, like myself included, and it's probably not even the right approach, but just for like a safety perspective, if we see 2 kickers and like I'm getting to 10% of one, 35% of the other, I want to even that out a lot of the time. Whereas now it's like, all right, I guess I don't have to even it out. I don't have to worry about the other kicker. So yeah, I think it kind of makes sense. As far as FanDuel, let me get these sims running, and then I'll take a look over at FanDuel for the 222. So I'm just going to make some quick changes here to run a new set of sims. Actually, I'm going to refresh, make sure that everything is up to date. So I think my biggest input here is going to be, I'm going to lean on the Chiefs running backs a little bit more. So I'm going to change the rush rate up to, going to move it all the way from 45.8 to 48%. And just say, what happens if the Chiefs decide to run the ball more and I get more of all of Pacheco, Smith, and Hunt? And then the other thing I'm going to do, so on top of increasing the rush rate, I'm going to move the ownership closer to where it is elsewhere. So I'm going to move Pacheco down to 34% flex ownership, going to leave him at 6% cap ownership. Hunt down to 11% flex ownership. And then Smith down to, we'll move him to 14% flex ownership and see if that gets me a little bit more of the Chiefs pass catchers. And then I'm going to normalize that. And then, I mean, Tyquan Thornton, I'm getting to a ton. If I'm at 1%, I'm just going to move him up to 2% projected ownership. Let's see. I think that is good. Any other takes that I wanted to? Oh, and then the Commanders, I'm just going to move them up to a, 5% projected defense ownership. Oh, and I think I might want a little bit more of McNichols and Debo. I'm going to move up the rush rate just because in the games that Mariota has been the quarterback, they've run a lot more. So I'm going to move the rush rate up to 50%. Okay, let's try that. And maybe move up McLaurin's receiving market share slightly. There we go. Now I'm going to get the sims running. All right, on FanDuel. Starting with MVP. I mean, in the 222, like I probably would still be Mahomes at MVP for me in a large field contest like that. Or, I mean, you could play just Rashee Rice, I think is also he's more expensive than Mahomes, but much lower ownership. And ownership tends to condense around the chalk. So I would guess that Mahomes gets even more ownership than this 24% in the 222. So I think it would be either Mahomes or Rice for me at captain or at MVP. I don't think you need to get like two off the wall in that contest at MVP. But I would have both of them in my lineup regardless. And then in the flex, and I actually, I just want to do a more general instead of just focusing on the 222. Who else would I play in a larger field contest? I think Worthy looks pretty good at 15.6 at 6% ownership on FanDuel. That's something I would want to have more of. Man, Bucker's kind of expensive. Debating if I want any of the like kickers or defenses at MVP. I think maybe Chiefs defense at under 3% projected ownership at MVP against Marcus Mariota might work out okay. I actually don't like Kelsey looks a little bit better here at pretty big discount on Kelsey on FanDuel relative to DraftKings coming in at 5% ownership. I actually don't hate that Kelsey at MVP on FanDuel. So yeah, I think like my more off the wall plays would be Worthy, Kelsey, but that'd be for larger field stuff. I don't think I would play them in the 222. I think I'd be more likely to just go to, I mean, Rashee Rice is half the ownership of Mahomes. Kind of like that, I think. Otherwise, you could do Mahomes with Rice and Worthy in the flex, and then pay down. Then you need to save some value by playing. I mean, you could play Brashard Smith at 5,800. I thought there was somebody who was cheap that I liked here. I mean, Thornton at 3,000 looks pretty good. He won't be owned in the 222 much. I wouldn't think, at least. Hollywood Brown at 4,800 looks really good on FanDuel. That's crazy. He's only getting 14% ownership. I mean, not a huge, not a player that I love on DraftKings at 5,400, but on FanDuel at 4,800, not getting much ownership. Looks like a pretty strong play. I mean, what is Juju's 5,000? Juju more expensive than Hollywood Brown on FanDuel. Yeah, I think Hollywood just looks like the better play there. He would be kind of a priority on FanDuel, even though I don't love him on DraftKings. Trying to see if there's any other strong values or plays that stand out here. I mean, I still like Pacheco at 8,200, 16% projected ownership. I like that quite a bit on FanDuel also. It's tougher to fit if you do Mahomes or Rice at MVP and have the other one in your lineup. But if you can fit Pacheco into your lineup, I still like him on FanDuel. So if Mahomes and Rice about the same price. Yeah, I'd probably do Mahomes or Rice in the MVP spot. Have both of them in my lineup. Maybe Chiefs defense and or Butker. Pacheco if you can fit him, and then save some value with Hollywood Brown. I don't know if how much salary am I using here on FanDuel? That's probably too much. But those would be kind of the players I'd be looking at. All right, my first run of the Sims on DraftKings is in. Top lineup: Mahomes, Brashard Smith, Harrison Butker, Isaiah Pacheco, Rashee Rice. Ja'Cory Krasky-Merritt is the bringback. Second lineup: Marcus Mariota with Deebo Samuel and Ja'Cory Krasky-Merritt has Mahomes, Brashard Smith, and Harrison Butker. Third lineup: Deebo Samuel is the MVP with Brashard Smith, Harrison Butker, Isaiah Pacheco, Marcus Mariota, and Patrick Mahomes. You can see all of these lineups using pretty close to the salary cap until the fifth one. But the fourth lineup: Mahomes with Butker, Pacheco, Hunt. Interesting. Mahomes captain with none of his receivers or tight ends has both Pacheco and Hunt, along with Marcus Mariota, Deebo Samuel, Harrison Butker. Finally, we have a lineup that leaves 1,100 on the table. This one has Mahomes at captain with Brashard Smith, Harrison Butker, Isaiah Pacheco, Ja'Cory Krasky-Merritt, and Marcus Mariota. So both of the quarterbacks here are stacked up with running backs and no receivers, which is okay. It's not my favorite. I mean, Mariota does run a bit, so I guess I get it, but these aren't my favorite correlations, I would say. But they're probably going to go lightly duped. Yeah, all of these are projected for fairly light dupes, under one dupes each, or most are under one. That's in a field of 15,000. Obviously, those dupes come up in a field of 150,000. You can kind of 10x these as a guesstimate. All right, let me look at my player exposures. I'm going to check in on chat also. Just get rid of this bot so I can see what you're saying. Let's see. All right. Sorry, I missed out some chats. So let me catch up here. Out of 6 Kansas City Showdown slates, Butker is in 5 out of 6 so far. Okay. Kansas City 10-1 against Washington. Okay. Favorite last man in single entry DraftKings under 4,000. No McNichols. I mean, if you can play Brashard Smith, it would probably be Brashard Smith. Otherwise, 4,000 or less last man in. Can't be McNichols, you said. So Chris Moore is there. If it could be 4,000, it would be Brashard Smith. Otherwise, I mean Kareem Hunt maybe. I don't hate Tyquan Thornton either as a play there. Yeah, so it would be Smith if you can. Second option would be Hunt. Third option would be Tyquan Thornton. Obviously, all depends on your lineup too. Like if you have Mahomes and no other pass catchers, then I would go Tyquan Thornton personally. So yeah, it's always dependent, but it's kind of how I'm ranking them. Let's see. Oh, this is the matchup that Mariota threw a touchdown to himself. Okay. I did not remember that. Recall that Lane does not get double points for housing one on special teams. You can just play defense. I think he does get points. He gets 6 points for housing one on special teams if he does. Unless I missed a change to the rules. How much is Juju? He just ran 22.5% of the routes, I believe. No, he ran 35% route participation last game with Rice back and saw 3 targets. Yeah, favorite MVP on FanDuel, probably Rashee Rice. Let's see. All right. Advance rate, I assume you're talking about best ball. It is, I'm advancing 26 teams. I lost a bunch in Best Ball Mania. All right. Smith captain for their 10 in a row. Yes, please do hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Thanks for the reminder, Brandon. Would appreciate it. All right. I have to make some changes to my lineups after I look at my exposures. So let me get to that. Only got 15 minutes here. I'm going to download these first. So actually, let me do that first of all. Make sure I have lineups in. All right. And then go to DraftKings, download. Get those in. All right. I do like that the sims are going quicker and quicker over time, so I'm more likely to get in closer to what I want. Although I did not get to the Tucker Craft that I wanted last night, but that was on me. I did it the wrong way, I think. All right. Now, player exposure is starting with quarterback. Right now, I'm getting to a ton of Mahomes at captain, ton of Mariota captain. I think that I'm going to have to filter down my Mahomes and Mariota exposure. Surprised I'm getting that much after increasing the rush rate. Not getting to a ton of Rice. I think I'd like more Rice than I'm getting to right now. So I'm gonna move some of the ownership from Rice to Mahomes / Mariota. I think Debo, I'm still getting to a fair amount, 46 and 10, 11% worthy. Would like to get more worthy at captain. Not getting much Terry McLaurin. Kind of spread out at the rest of these receivers. Running backs, I am getting to a ton of Pacheco, 9% captain, 53% flex, 49% Jacory Grasshopper at 7 at captain, 25% Rashard Smith, 14% Hunt, 7% McNichols. This all looks pretty good to me. Kicker, I'm just getting so much Butker. Reasonable amount of the defense is about 15% each, 18% or it's 5% Kelsey, 3% Gray. All right, I'm gonna make some changes here. So changing the inputs, I'm going to give more ownership to the quarterbacks because I'm getting to so much there. So I'm going to move away from some of this Rashee Rice. I'm going to move him down to like 16% projected ownership. Move Worthy down to 5%. And I'm going to give more of that ownership to Mahomes and Mariota. Normalize all that. What else do I want to do? So I was getting to not a ton of Rashee Rice or Xavier Worthy. I was just getting so much of the quarterbacks. I also think I want a bit less of Butker. So I'm just going to move his projection down to 9. Oh, and I was getting to a ton of Pacheco. Do I want to move some more of the rush rate to Hunt or Brashard Smith? I do want a lot of Pacheco. All right, I'm going to try it just as is. Using the settings. Oh, I need to change the settings. Okay. That is going to make a difference. All right. Shoot. Well, we'll see. We'll see if I made too many changes. I think I refreshed and then forgot to reset the settings to what I need, and those lineups were not for the contest that I'm playing in. So hopefully, I'm able to get this last set of lineups in. All right. Does Mariota have rushing upside? Yeah. I mean, he's been rushing for over 30 yards per game. I think there's upside for more with Mariota. All right, we're generating our field. It is kind of dumb that we only have one kicker option. I agree. I thought they would get one in. I thought they had time to make adjustments and get the other kickers in. But maybe that's because I don't run any like tools company. Maybe it's tougher for them. More probably being forced in by price and projections that are spurious because Scary Terry and Debo are back. I mean, he's not projected for much ownership. What game script can you build a team for that has easiest path to victory theoretically? I mean, I think that it is the Chiefs dominate actually, which is like that is the but it's building it in a different way. So I think that's the way most people are building, right? Like that is kind of the base assumption. People are going to be doing Chiefs onslaughts. But in my opinion, the running backs should benefit the most from that game script, and they're not getting a ton of ownership because they're not that sexy because it's a three-headed monster at running back. So then people are way more excited to play the passing game for the Chiefs. So everybody's going to play Mahomes, everybody's going to play Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce, etc. And to me, the running backs on the Chiefs look like they are going underutilized. So building it, and maybe that's partially because again they do lead the league in pass rate over expectation. But I think that there are, as we saw last game, they just when they did get a huge lead, they started running a ton with Brashard Smith. So I think the game script that is going to be underutilized is what if they just have success on the ground from the beginning, take a big lead, and then late kind of switch to Brashard Smith. So I like the idea of playing it as, hey, what if the Chiefs are able to run all over the Commanders who don't have a great run defense and they lean on the run a little bit or just happen to score a rushing touchdown or two in the first half just because that's, the way things go with the penalties and stuff. They have some opportunities to have some rushing touchdowns. They take a big lead, and then in the second half they turn it over to Rashard Smith and just kind of run out the game. I think is something that not a lot of people are building for based on ownership projections. But again, depends on where you look also because the Run the Sims ownership projections on those running backs are higher than they are elsewhere. All right, so using these new settings, I got Mahomes, Rashard Smith, Harrison Butker, Pacheco, again getting to Mahomes stacked up with the running backs more than pass catchers. Ja'Cory Krasky, Marcus Mariota. Second lineup, Mariota captain with Deebo Samuel. Luke McCaffrey has Mahomes, Pacheco, and Butker. Man, I'm getting to too little of the receivers, I think. I got to more of Rashee Rice now, 35%, 6 a captain. Deebo, 49 and 11 a captain. Worthy, just 20%, 19% McLaurin with 3% a captain. 9% Marquise Brown, 5% Juju, 16% Tyquan Thornton, 9% Chris Moore, 1% Jalen Lane, 5% Luke McCaffrey. At running back in this run, I got to 51% Isaiah Pacheco, 9% a captain, 45% Ja'Cory Krasky, 8% a captain, 24% Brashard Smith, 0.4 at captain, 8% Kareem Hunt, 2% McNichols, 3% Chris Rodriguez. Interesting. Quarterbacks, I'm still getting to a ton of Mahomes at captain, 40, and then 38 at captain, 53% Mariota, 20% at captain. Kicker still getting to 30% Bucker after lowering his projection a bit. Defense, 19% Chiefs, 26.5% Commanders still. Tight end, 17% Ertz, 8% Kelsey, 2% Gray. All right, I am going to download these lineups. And then rerun just the portfolio optimizer, I think. So I'm going to use these. Let's see. All right. And then I'm going to maybe set some caps on my player exposures. So first of all, I'm going to set this to 2,000 lineups. And then it's getting to 38% Mahomes. I might set a cap on Mahomes, captain. Okay. Generally, maybe I set a cap on the Commanders. Get slightly less. All right, so I'm going to use advanced filters. Maximum contain at captain for Mahomes. Set it 25. And then Commanders in the flex. I set the cap at 25. Then maybe also Mariota. Captain, I'm going to set at 15. Yeah, I'm going to try that. And re-optimize portfolio. We'll see what that does. I don't think I'm doing NBA videos this winter. I do the expert survey for Roto Grinders. I do the tags and blurbs on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I mean, after NFL season, maybe, but I've sort of moved away from doing NBA content just because it doesn't do as well. And I kind of want to like focus more on one thing rather than trying to do everything. So I'm just like focus on NFL offseason. I'll do best ball stuff. Maybe I'll do some season long stuff. But I don't know. If somebody reaches out to me like last year, Unabated reached out and offered to pay me to do some NBA content. I was like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll take some money to do NBA content. I love playing NBA DFS. But yeah, no current plans. It's too difficult during NFL season because I just don't have enough time to do more than I'm already doing. We do get spring football after NFL too. NASCAR, I mean, NASCAR just seems like the worst sweat. Like just because it's all like there's a crash at the end and it ruins everything. I bet it's fun if you win. I bet if you win NASCAR, it is fun. Yep, Ant out 2 weeks. I hope it's just 2 weeks. Oh, it already did the re-optimize my portfolio for me. So let me take a look. Mahomes, yeah, I'm at 25% captain now. Good. Did I get to more of other captains that I like? I realize I have limited time here. Yeah, more Rice, more Debo. All right, we're looking good. We're looking good. I'm gonna download these lineups. Get those in before the bell. All right. There we go. Got our lineups in. See what our final player exposures look like. Anything too terrible? So these are, I'm using the filtered exposures now instead of the shady filters. I'm now at 15% Ertz, 9% Kelsey, 1% Gray. Okay, that's all fine. Defenses, 25% Commanders. That was my cap. 19% Chiefs. Kickers, I'm at 32% Butker and 0.4% Captain. Running backs, I got to, 48% Pacheco plus 13% of captain. Go Pacheco tonight. Ja'Cory Carrasco right up to 12% of captain with 46% in the flex, 22% Rashard Smith, 9% Kareem Hunt, 1% McNichols, 3% Rodriguez. So as much as I talked about loving the Chiefs running backs, I hope that I'm over the field here on Rashard Smith and Kareem Hunt, but I might not be. Wide receivers, I did get to 30% and 8% captain of Rashee Rice, 48% and 14% Debo, 18% Worthy, 19 and 5% McLaurin, 7% Marquise Brown, 4% Juju, 14% Taekwon, 8% more, just 1% Lane, and 6% McCaffrey. So would have liked to have more Lane there. And then quarterbacks, 51 and 25 for Mahomes, 62 and 15 for Mariota. So we got closer to where I'd like to be. Didn't quite get all the way there, but should be a fun game to watch. Hopefully you guys all got in lineups that you like. Yeah, just catching it. Make sure I'm not missing anything in chat. But if you haven't already signed up, if you haven't already joined the Flaniverse Discord, the link is in the description of this video. It is free to join if you want to chat some football or whatever else, entertainment, whatever you want to talk about is in the Flaniverse Discord. Link is in this description. It is free. That's going to do it for week 8. I'll be back on Thursday with Adam to talk about the Thursday night football game, week 9. I have no idea who's playing. Oh, I think it's like Baltimore, Miami, something that's, I don't know, kind of fun. We'll see. But I appreciate all of you hanging out for this video. Please do like it, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. I'll catch you guys on Wednesday. I'll be here with Methodology and a special guest doing the Dog Bowl show. And then Thursday Night Football. See you guys later. Good luck.